Welcome back to IGN's History of Awesome, a year-by-year breakdown of big events that shape pop culture. 2009 saw the release of the biggest movie of all time with James Cameron's Avatar. J.J. Abrams was laying the groundwork to take over Star Wars when he rebooted Star Trek, and Rocksteady brought us the Batman game we all deserve with Batman Arkham Asylum. Obviously, a lot was going on, so let's get talking.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to History of Awesome. I'm Damon Hatfield. I will be your guide this time out. I'm joined by Brian Altano.
Thank you.
Callie Plagge.
Hello.
Esmeralda Portillo.
Hello.
And it's time to talk about 2009 and all that happened in those 365 days. Brian, you were just saying that you got a real cool new job in the year 2009.
Yeah, a little place called IGN.com, the #1 website for...
The #1 website.
Just that's it. That's all you gotta say.
Full stop.
Yeah, I started working here back then, which is like, it's
cool.
weird. It seems like not that long ago, but I guess it was also the year of a bunch of other things back here, which make me feel really old, so who knows?
I know. Doing these History of Awesomes has that effect on one person. Here's a really cool game that came out in 2009, Batman Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Started the whole Batman Arkham series. Might still be my favorite, my personal favorite.
It absolutely is my favorite of those
because
games.
of, I think you'll appreciate this, the Die Hard effect.
Yes.
It's all self-contained in one area.
One setting, it's not a big sprawling city, which I think that's like a lot of games lean towards that. Not necessarily as a crutch, but sort of to like show off and flaunt a little. We have a whole city. But I think there's something kind of incredible about creating one environment, making it tight and just awesome to navigate. It had a lot of sort of Metroid Prime, Zelda elements to it of, I can't get in that thing yet, I don't know how to go up there yet, but eventually I'll learn. It's really cool.
Yeah, I like that in 2005 when we got Christopher Nolan's, like, the beginning of those films, like, that was, like, the reset of Batman being, like, you know, dark and edgy, and I really didn't care about superhero games until this one actually blew my mind, and it's actually one of my favorite games of all time just because, like, you didn't really expect them to really, like, go into all these characters and exploit them in a way that they did, like with Ivy and Croc. Like, they gave them all equal time as well as the Joker to actually, like, make you, like, feel like these characters, you're actually watching a movie in motion. You're playing with the movie. And like you said, like, you get all these tools that you don't really know what you're doing with them first, and then you can actually go back and discover all these real cool secrets later on in the game. It's really entertaining with the detective mode and all this other stuff. I really like it.
Yeah, I like that they made it its own thing and didn't like make it a movie tie-in.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned like the bosses. I thought that was such a clever way to sort of weave in famous characters throughout Batman history, and also like Easter eggs and references everywhere. They were on like computer terminals. There were Riddler trophies everywhere that alluded to other stuff. But like you would turn a corner and be like, oh, this is like Poison Ivy's area. This is, you know, Killer Croc's like basement sewer.
It was kind of like a reward to fans. It's like, if you know the comics and stuff, here are the people that you definitely want, and if you're new to them, here's your great introduction. You don't really need a lot, but you know, now you get to appreciate these characters for the other games.
Yeah. This was developer Rocksteady's only their second game. Their first game was 2006's Urban Chaos Riot Response.
Never heard of it.
Really?
I don't know.
I don't think the world remembers that game, but then Rocksteady they took 3 years and then they made Batman Arkham Asylum.
I mean, Arkham Asylum was kind of a riot response, right?
I guess so. Basically the same game.
Yeah.
They just reskinned it with Batman.
Oh, come on!
Oh, that just reminded me of the opening for Arkham Asylum too, where you're just walking down as you're arresting the...
Really cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
Yeah, the combat was really awesome too. We saw it in hundreds of other games
You'll see it
afterwards.
today. You saw Mad Max last year in Shadow of Mordor.
Shadow of Mordor, yeah.
Here's a fun fact. One developer at Rocksteady spent 2 years programming Batman's cape. It has over 700 animations.
He must have been heartbroken to see it get torn apart throughout that game. Every time you checked in with Batman on that game, it was like, oh, you got another hole in your cape? What's going on, dude?
That was another day in his job.
Yep.
Like, now I gotta work with this new cape on another hole.
Hey, we tore up all your work last night.
Also in 2009, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 came out that year. Direct sequel to Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare.
Right. Really important for the no Russian mission, which is probably one of the biggest controversies in Call of Duty history for how disturbing the source material is, right? Because you're kind of killing, you're killing civilians in that mission.
Right.
And I think it set a good precedent for the Call of Duty games with the graphic content filter. So basically with no Russian, you could just not play and nothing would happen. No, you would have no penalties. You could just skip the mission if you weren't comfortable with it. And in other countries, they actually just removed it altogether.
Right.
but we've seen the graphic content filter evolve a lot in Call of Duty, and so you can turn off gore. It's a little weird because you're still doing violent things, but it's really helpful.
Version.
It's really helpful for people who have problems with gore but still want to experience the game or something like that. And so
yeah, the no Russian thing was interesting because we as a video game industry hadn't really had not a good but like a really heavy controversy in a while. The kind of stuff that...
Been a while since hot coffee.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. That brought us into like mainstream news, and CNN were covering it and stuff like that. And it was also interesting because it sort of showed you one of these games from the terrorist perspective, which I don't know if that's ever still a good idea, but in some ways it's kind of interesting to go, okay, well, there are two sides to this. Like, where is this coming from?
Well, yeah, say what you will about the way Call of Duty handles heavy issues, but it's still, you have to take baby steps, and in a medium that's still in its infancy, it was a really important step to take. And I think that the concept of being able to skip it with no repercussions, there's no like specific achievements you have to get, you don't get points for killing civilians. It's just it was mostly a plot point thing. And
for a game that's not even like known for that type of stuff.
Right, it was really big, and to have something like that in such a well-known franchise, the kind that would be covered in mainstream media, is really big for us. That was the year it happened, 2009.
Yeah, and then also mechanically, the original Modern Warfare took the series away from World War II and sort of defined what multiplayer first-person shooters are for the modern age. And then Modern Warfare 2 introduced the cooperative mode Special Ops, which was really fun.
Yeah.
The first game just had a PvP.
The Modern Warfare franchise, I'm sure, is like regarded as like the top. Like
it's just that's what a modern FPS is.
Yeah, totally.
2009 also saw the release of what is, by some measures, the best-selling game of all time, Minecraft.
Yeah.
It was actually the alpha that was released in 2009, and then the full release wouldn't come till 2011. But yeah, even today, that is every month when we get MTD numbers, that game is still in the top 10 every single month. It's sold over 70 million units. If you're counting video game games that are bundled with consoles like Wii Sports or Tetris with Game Boy, it's number 3, but it is the #1 standalone selling game of all time.
And I think it probably could go on to beat those pack-in titles too, because no one is buying them anymore. People are still buying Minecraft.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah,
I've purchased Minecraft on like maybe like 4 or 5 different devices.
Yeah.
Like,
really?
Yeah, just like I have one. I even have one on my a version of it on my Kindle. Just because like I was on a plane and I had format. I do this horrible thing where I try to download as much media as possible as the plane's taking off.
How much data can I use?
I'm like, oh, I gotta get it! But no, Minecraft's one of those really great modern examples of how games are not the same the first day as they are years later. They are growing ecosystems, and we saw that a lot with Warcraft before that. But Minecraft also had that amazing ability of going completely mobile, where you could play it pretty much everywhere. It's one of the best handheld games ever made, really. And the fact that it brought so many community members together, so many people in the world together to create and not destroy, which is fundamentally the idea of most video games, is to sort of kill opposition, overcome the odds, beat the bad guys. Minecraft was like, how do I make the Millennium Falcon out of blocks? And people went on YouTube, and I think it's actually it's sort of synonymous with the growth of YouTube gaming as well.
I was gonna say its impact in society, both in the education, like now actually teachers are using it in schools in order to teach like problem solving and reading comprehension. But its impact on YouTube is something that just it now competes Call of Duty in terms of I'm sure it's even no more popular now than Call of Duty on YouTube, and just brought more of the kid-friendly personalities, so YouTube celebrities up, and just revolutionized YouTube even as a platform of not only will we entertain you with cat videos, but we'll entertain you with videos that help learn. You can teach your kids how to play Minecraft. You can introduce them to people that also play that are safe for you and stuff, and it's even now I think besides PewDiePie, the other top YouTubers like Sky Does Minecraft, he gets 5 million views per video just because people are just entertained with this game, like you said, that you create with other people, and that you can basically make your own game out of this one game.
Yeah, it's like a toy almost. Yeah. Well, not even almost. I think it's super like a toy, and it's the first game I had played in a while where I wanted to play online with my friends. I spent a lot of time not doing that, avoiding it because of the culture. But then Minecraft, I got to play with people on a server, and it was really fun because we were just kind of screwing around and making fake territories and making stuff up.
It's kind of hard to be a total piece of trash over that like sultry, soft piano music that's playing in the background, and there's like beautiful trees everywhere. Like Minecraft has that kind of thing where like you can go on YouTube and type in like any person, place, or thing, and then Minecraft, and someone will have made that.
Yeah.
Like
the
you can just name a
Minecraft
guy,
Hunger
it'll be
Games
there.
are some of the most entertaining.
Yeah, such a great game.
Yeah.
How about Uncharted 2?
Yeah.
Best in the franchise.
I agree with you. Yeah, that's my favorite entry in the franchise. That's one of those series where the first one came out of the gate and was very impressive, but it wasn't perfect, and then the sequel just totally blew it out of the water.
You're like, the first scene is you hanging off like a train that's going off a cliff in the snow. It's also the first one that introduced multiplayer, which I became obsessed with.
The multiplayer is actually really good.
Yeah, which is surprising because, you know, you're like, a single player game shouldn't have this one when it's so focused on its narrative, and then you play it and I'm like, I'm addicted for 5 hours today. Like, I'm addicted for 10.
It was one of the first times I really felt connected to the pain that a protagonist was going through. A Tomb Raider went on to do it probably even better later on, and then eventually pull back a little and have less like kind of spears through your throat and stuff. But those first 20 minutes of Uncharted 2, where he's in a t-shirt and he's freezing and he's bloody and he's got like a sling, and it's really hard to get through that. You're like, I feel so bad for this guy. He's holding out of this thing and it just explodes and people start shooting at him. It's rough.
Yeah, and also like the unspoken like history that goes on between him and his now wife that he doesn't really talk about, and then Chloe and the wittiness, like what is that relationship, and then learning more about him and Sully, like all these things that you just necessarily didn't explore in the first game, and the second game is just like, it's hard. It's interesting to me when a video game makes you feel when it doesn't even do anything. Like the two characters are just staring at each other, one's sitting on a bed and Drake's just staring at her, and it's just like, there's so much pain that happened in between 1 and 2 that you guys aren't speaking of, and I really care now, and like I want to know what your adventure is besides just what, you know, the game is telling me to do. What happened between you guys?
Well, the first one was so like, kind of campy and one-dimensional, and it really only had a few set pieces. It was all set in one environment. You didn't really have that Indiana Jones globe-trotting aspect to it. But you're totally right in that the second one, you started developing these character relationships, and you started realizing like there are serious ramifications to being a selfish-ass treasure hunter. Like, if you're going to go disappear for 6 months and put all your friends and wife in jeopardy just for like a statue of a goblin or whatever, like, people get hurt. Like, it messes people up. It breaks
those
the
villages
families.
he destroys. Like,
Man, don't even get me started on that.
My favorite part of Uncharted 2 is like you get to pet yaks, you pet 4 or whatever, and then you do that nice little thing, everything's calm, and then like 5 minutes later a tank just comes right through that village.
Everybody's dead, and they came for you. Not for, no one's like, we're going to take that village out. They're like, that dude was here. Let's kill everybody. Great game.
Great game.
It has a Nintendo level of polish.
Yeah.
It is the most highly rated PS3 exclusive and won IGN's Game of the Year for that year, 2009.
It's really the most highly rated PS3 exclusive? Wow, that's awesome.
That's amazing.
Speaking of sequels that improved on the original in every way, Assassin's Creed 2.
Yep.
It's really good. Maybe also still my favorite in the series.
I think it's
really
also
like
regarded
Black
as the best in
Flag,
the franchise.
I have a lot of fond memories of Assassin's Creed 2.
Yeah, introduction of Ezio, who went on to become then Brotherhood and Revelations. Yeah, no, it's definitely an open world game that I'm actually not much of an open world person, but like it introduces it really well. Where like you'll do a mission, and it's like you can continue doing all these missions, but there's 100 different things you can do. You can chase that script that's in the air for some reason. It does it really well where it doesn't feel overwhelming, because sometimes with open world games it's like I don't know what to do. Where do I start? Like in a Fallout game or even Red Dead Redemption. But this one's just like, we will cater you to the things that matter, but you definitely have the opportunity to explore everything else that you want and still have a lot of fun with it, and then come back whenever you
Well, I think
like.
if you look at like the mini map in Uncharted 2 versus like
now
it's like pulling up like Yelp in a major city now. You know, there's just like restaurants and bars everywhere, but Uncharted 2 is just the right amount of stuff where it didn't feel like you were buried in it.
Are you talking about Uncharted or Assassin's Creed?
Oh, Assassin's Creed, sorry. Uncharted 2 didn't really have anything like that. I'm getting excited. I'm losing it.
Assassin's Creed 2 had a fist fight with the Pope.
Yeah. It was weird.
I forgot about that.
The game is like really, I love that game. And it felt like a mature game. It was like dealing with sort of headier things about religion and things like that. And then it ends with a fist fight with the Pope. It's like, okay, I guess it's still a video game.
And then they start getting into like the space goddess stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's the introduction of, I've actually forgot her name, I think it's Juno, of just like why you're doing the things that, like the ending of the first one is just like you saw the blood in all these weird places and it's talking about the end of the world, and now it's talking about this is why the end of the world happened, because before humans used to live with gods and then humans overtook gods, and you're like, but I just want to stab people.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is about history.
It's so weird like that.
Yeah.
It's like you can have a conversation with somebody for an hour and be like, that's one of the best conversations of my life. And then be like, hey, wait a minute, like, At one point, did they say that they live on their roof? Like, that guy seemed totally normal. Like, there's just like this window dressing around Assassin's Creed that's like, and I got the name of the game right this time, but where it's like it starts with a guy in the present day who goes in the past in a bed to touch his ancestors' memories in his minds, and then it also connects
to his ancestors' girlfriends too.
He does, which is weird. And it also,
as it happens in the game.
It connects to Golden Magical Apple Space Odyssey stuff, and the Garden of Eden. What?
Yeah, but it's also entertaining because the gameplay is so engaging.
It's so weird.
It's so fun.
Somehow it works though.
Yeah, I think our friends at 1UP said it best. Anyone who enjoyed the first game will definitely like Assassin's Creed 2, but the real accomplishment is that people who didn't enjoy it will likely have a good time with the second one.
Oh, that's a good
Still
point.
climbing up to a tower and hearing that eagle go as it spun around.
And then just diving down into
Just
the hay.
the best.
I hope the hay's still there. I hope the hay's
I hope the hay's in the movie.
Yeah.
I hope Michael Fassbender jumps
gotta
in the hay
dive.
off the roof.
Yeah, the movie's coming out this year.
I know.
Yeah.
I hope that has the eagle noise in the hay. It doesn't take much to please me.
Yeah. No game this year, but a Michael Fassbender
Yeah.
movie. 2009 is when Angry Birds was first released.
Yeah, no, it's I think Angry Birds opened.
Speaking of movies,
Oh right, that is a movie coming out, which is going to be weird. Angry Birds, I think, opened the mobile platform. Like, you guys can make great, engaging, short games, and not only get the gamer demographic, but get everyone. Because I think it opened the door for Candy Crush and all these other games, like Flappy Bird, obviously. It's just like, you don't have to like be a gamer, because our understanding of gamer is we play 10 hours of a game or whatever, even if it's a 60-hour game. But this one's like, no, you can put it down, like in between your BART train, or even if you're on in the bathroom, do the quick game and then just like go back to work.
Yeah, it definitely opened up the door. It was like the first real breakout mobile game that I can remember, and at the time, people would kind of make fun of Angry Birds, especially in the gamer community, but I think we have to give it credit, because there's tons of mobile games now, like Lara Croft Go or something like that, that I really like and I really respect, and it's the viability of that platform we owe in large part to Angry Birds.
Yeah. It had that thing like in the 80s and 90s where you saw businessmen in first class holding Game Boys playing Tetris. You would get on the train or on a plane and everyone was playing Angry Birds. And they're the kind of people who would walk out and they'd be like, oh, a game? What's a gamer? I'm not a gamer. Like, well, yeah, you are. And also, like,
because it was free too.
It was free.
You could play.
Yeah, and I mean, they ended up doing crossovers with pretty much everything: Star Wars, Transformers. Like, the merchandising is everywhere. It's
Angry Birds Star Wars was really good.
Yeah, it was fun. It was really fun
in the series. Yeah, people can be dismissive of mobile games, but I think you can't deny it's polished. It has likable characters, and it just has really addictive puzzle mechanics.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know something's a hit when you go to Chinatown in any city and there are bootleg versions of the characters in something, and they're selling the hats and the t-shirts.
Next to that Lario, plushie.
Super Lario,
Fun fact, developer Rovio chose pigs as the enemies because at the time swine flu was in the news.
I read that. Yeah, that's so
They're
funny.
Like, let's beat swine flu, everyone.
I had sort of
so weird.
Yeah, until we were playing for this episode, I had forgotten about swine flu, and then I was like, oh yeah, that was such a big deal.
And now the movie has to explain that in a weird narrative way.
It was so important that it made it into this huge hit mobile game, just swine flu.
So thanks, swine flu.
Other notable games from 2009 include Borderlands, first one. That seems so weird at the time. You're shooting these cartoon people and numbers are flying out of them. Like, that one turned into a big series. GTA Chinatown Wars was on...
One of my favorites.
DS,
right? It was on DS and then eventually PSP and iOS. If you have an iPhone, download that game because it's still really fun.
Left 4 Dead 2 came out that year. Played many a game with Greg Miller on Left 4 Dead 2. Demon's Souls came out that year. Started the whole Souls business.
It's a good year for games.
And Scribblenauts. We named Scribblenauts our Game of E3.
Yes, and interesting story about that. One of the reasons that happened is because that was one of the first times I really realized there's a difference between playing something for 5 minutes and then really getting into it. Now there was a little booth in the Warner Brothers booth. It was Batman. And it was Scribblenauts. Those are the two games at E3 that year. And we went, and on the last day, everybody was like, I played Batman, it's awesome. I played, I guess, Borderlands, Left 4 Dead, all the other ones. You got to try this game, Scribblenauts. You can put in any word you want, much like Minecraft on YouTube, and it'll appear in the game. And we all got kind of like, not hoodwinked, but we all got lured in by this big magic trick. And eventually, the game itself was kind of difficult to play. It didn't really, you had a touch screen to control your character. Iterations in the future fixed that, so the gameplay got a lot better and a lot tighter. And those games are still really fun. But yeah, that was an interesting one.
Moving over to movies, 2009 gave us the highest grossing film of all time worldwide, Avatar.
Why?
It's a big... Now, come on, this is the history of awesome. I know. Not the history of why.
That's another series that we'll do.
Very entertaining series.
It's
right.
beautiful. It's a really beautiful movie.
There's no denying that this was a huge cultural event that happened in 2009.
There's people have trouble remembering things about Avatar. Like I'm talking to people and they're like, I don't think I can quote that movie.
See those characters?
Yeah.
What are their names?
What are their names?
But
I'll wait.
Mr. and Mrs. Navi.
but I think we can. I think we can credit Avatar for. I mean, that was like a super big deal for 3D movies, and at the time, like I refused to see a movie in 3D. I was like one of those people who was like, "That's so dumb." Yeah. And then I saw Avatar, and I was like, "Well, that was actually really cool." And then
maybe that movie, I believe that movie does like actually made every single movie right after that's like we need to do 3D because if it did this that spectacularly and everyone's paying for it, absolutely want to do that again.
Well, that was a good way to get people to pay, you know, $17 for a movie ticket. It was actually the first time I've ever heard movies be called events. The movie event of the summer.
Other than Star Wars.
The don't miss event, you know? But because Avatar was really like, it was like a ride where you didn't move.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of an event more than it was a movie. And the fact that we can't quote it or
which is why now Disney is actually opening in Avatar Land.
The fact that we don't remember as much about the story. The fact that we can't remember as much about the story as we remember about the spectacle of going and the buying the ticket and getting the 3D glasses and seeing 3D actually look good for the first time and how beautiful that movie was. That's more of an event than a movie, and that's what's important about it.
And I think the reason that people can't really remember the story was, one, because it was mostly like Pocahontas meets Ferngully, but two, because you didn't really have much incentive to watch that at home when it was on Blu-ray.
I was going to say.
Unless you had a, very
remember, they tried
TV.
to sell us 3D TVs.
Yeah. It didn't work.
That movie is just like Gravity, where I saw it in theaters. I'm happy I saw it in theaters, but I don't think I can watch it at home and have the exact same effect because it's just not on a big screen and, like you said, 3D. I remember, like, right after Avatar came out, that there was a lot of cases, apparently, of people saying they were very depressed because Pandora was in a real place.
Yeah, they wanted to go back to Avatar, and
they
couldn't. That tree burned down, and they got sad.
Yeah, no, but despite what we may say about the story and not remembering characters, I truthfully believe it's like one of the most beautiful movies ever.
Oh yeah, it's utterly gorgeous.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, Cameron actually wrote an 80-page treatment for in 1994, the same year he released True Lies. And then he wanted to make it right after Titanic and release it in 1999, but then he realized, oh, the technology I need to make this doesn't exist yet. So he had to wait for like 10 years for
That is so interesting that he had the insight, though, to wait.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was making all those underwater documentaries.
It's also the first part of a trilogy. So
apparently.
Actually, returning to Avatar too?
Yeah. I think it's supposed to come next year.
Really?
Yeah.
Next Avatar movie. Yeah.
We'll see.
District 9. Very cool sci-fi movie.
Definitely an opposite of Avatar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think what we were talking about before we started filming, what we really remember about that movie was the marketing.
Yeah.
Humans only marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like the Deadpool marketing that we saw this year. It's just like it really like kind of like engrossed you into this like environment that, you know, I don't really know what the movie's about, but like I'm seeing all these things on buses, I'm seeing it on benches, like why is it humans only? I'm interested. And definitely it's a great movie that like touched on a really hard subject in an interesting sci-fi way that I truthfully would have never expected. I went in there not really knowing anything about the movie and came out feeling so sad for all those aliens. Yeah, it's a really good film.
Yeah, there's something like incredibly raw and visceral about it, which I think is what makes it so incredible. Is that sci-fi, even as you can see with Avatar, is so sort of clean and polished usually, and this was just like guttural and disgusting.
Yeah, it was
it was very kind of hard to watch.
I think it was his first movie, right?
It was his first movie. He had his experience was in commercials before that.
That's so crazy. No wonder he had good marketing.
Yeah, that makes that explains the marketing really well.
Yeah, Peter Jackson produced it, and it came out of a plan for them to make a Halo movie, and then that fell apart. But they still wanted to make a movie together. So
really?
Said, well, I've got this idea for District 9. They produced that movie for $30 million. It grossed over $200 million.
Crazy.
So it was a big hit.
Nice.
It's really good. Also in 2009, Taken, the first Taken, was released.
So
part of just like Avatar, part of the Taken trilogy.
Yeah, my mom watched that movie, and then I immediately was planning a trip internationally, and she was not happy, and I was like, Taken.
I don't want to get too deep into Taken lore, but there's a part at the end of that movie where she goes for singing lessons with a famous pop singer who I think is fake. That is never followed up on in Taken 2 or 3. I think she abandons her dreams of becoming a singer, and she just gets her driver's license.
She probably had a lot of trauma. Okay, don't feel bad.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
But yeah, there were a lot of. It was kind of this meme for a while, like Liam Neeson's gonna come, like
no, definitely
destroy you.
Now it's the movie that launched Liam Neeson as an action hero, the same way Die Hard made Bruce Willis an action hero, because we never thought Bruce Willis would have been one before that, and now Liam Neeson's like, he was in that Wolf movie, I forget, Grey, I believe.
Grey.
There's apparently another Taken. I think there's Taken 3 now.
There's Taken 2.
Taken, but like the E is a 3.
Yeah, a prequel TV series on the way, starring a younger.
Prequel.
What? Did they just kidnap younger versions of his family over and over every week?
Yeah. They kidnap his parents when he's just a boy and he has to go.
Okay, so like at that point, you're just a bad husband.
I'm making that up.
Okay.
The prequel series is real.
But Taken still is an amazing movie.
Yes.
It's like doesn't stop. Like the minute that she's kidnapped, it's just action shot after action shot, and you're just like, they can't get any worse. Like, how is he finding his daughter? And it's like, because apparently he's like a mercenary from the past.
I forget if it was Taken 2 or Taken 3, but Liam Neeson was on record in an interview being like, I will never do another sequel to that movie. And then like 3 months later, it was like, Taken 3. Like, what happened? Oh, money.
2009 was also the year they rebooted Star Trek with J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
And I think it turned out pretty well.
Yeah.
Even like I'm not a hardcore Star Trek fan, but I enjoyed his 2 films that he made.
It brought in people that weren't Star Trek fans into a...
Yeah, I think because I was never a huge Star Trek person, and I really enjoyed them, and it made me more interested in going back to older Star Trek in a way. And Leonard Nimoy is in that movie too. It's sort of a cameo, but he has like an actual role in that movie. And that was one of those nods that I really enjoyed because I really respect him as a person. And then Chris Pine, everybody was like, "Ooh, Chris Pine." He became one of the Chris's. Chris's Hemsworth, Pine.
They're both in the movie.
Evans and Pratt.
R2-D2 is also in that movie, which is really interesting. There's a scene where they're looking out of a hangar bay and R2-D2 floats by. And J.J. Abrams went on to do Star Wars a couple years later.
That's so
It's really cool. It's a cool little Easter egg. I was always like a Star Wars guy over Star Trek, but I liked the very, very old school Star Trek with what's his name? You know his name.
Yeah, who played Kirk?
Yeah.
I do know his name. Why are we not locked behind
William
Shatner?
Shatner, nailed it. Those were awesome because that was about a crew of like kind of weird characters, like traveling from place to place and getting off on different planets. And I never really got into like Deep Space Nine and some of the other ones because they were more about the sort of politics on the ship. And why I liked the 2009 Star Trek movie was because it kind of went all over the galaxy, and it felt ironically very Star Wars in a lot of ways. And then again, JJ went on to
it was
Star
probably
Wars,
his audition for Star Wars.
100%. Yeah.
So. Other notable 2009 films include Inglourious Bastards.
Yes, so good.
Very, very good. That year also gave us the first Hangover, which was good. And people weren't sick of the Hangover.
That year gave us a hangover.
Well, I was going to say definitely not my first Hangover.
First Hangover movie. Which at the time people liked. People got sick of the sequels.
Yeah. Another movie that got 3 of that we didn't need.
Exactly. The first one was.
I remember that was such a big deal. Like people were quoting The Hangover constantly.
Yeah, no,
that year.
it was like Vegas already had enough tourism, but now it's just like people recreating the Hangover like event experience.
Oh my God, that was like the biggest commercial for Vegas ever shot.
I can't even tell you the amount of times I heard "It's not a purse, it's a satchel."
Yeah.
Like people quoting that line from that movie. And Zach Galifianakis was kind of more of a big deal.
Where he like really exploded?
Well, he did like weird, like smaller stuff before that. Like he was in that movie like Out Cold or whatever. Like it's just like weird snowboarding comedy movie and stuff like that. But he was more of like a weird avant-garde independent comedian.
And then he goes on to interview Barack Obama.
That's what I was gonna say.
Hangover.
The Hangover is that. From The Hangover to interviewing the president.
The Hangover is vicariously responsible for the weirdest interview with our current president that has ever been filmed.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I think also at the time, celebrity cameos weren't such a they weren't as lazy a move in comedies. So when Mike Tyson shows up.
Oh yeah, with his pet tigers.
Oh yeah.
Just the best, singing Phil Collins. Over on TV, Community started in 2009.
Amazing TV show.
Yeah, really, really good.
It's one of those the first season when you look at it is really different from the rest of the seasons, but it was still good enough to like keep you interested. Like I like where these characters are going. I'm not really sure because Britta's arc definitely changes from the very first one, but like that season, that whole show is so like like memorable quotes from The Hangover. Like you can say any episode, and I'm pretty sure you can get like 100 one-liners from it. And my favorite thing from Community is Troy and Abed. Troy and Abed in the morning.
Yep.
So good.
Really good. It was really weird to see Chevy Chase back in something like this. You know, we saw him in the 80s and 90s just doing wacky comedies all the time. Yeah. And then he kind of disappeared for a little while. So to see him come back, even though I heard he was like notoriously difficult to work with.
Yeah, unfortunately the show definitely has history of like Dan Harmon, who's the creator of the show, he was kicked off and then brought back on. Chevy Chase had problems that he was kicked off in. And now most of the actors like Troy's the actor like I don't know how to
Childish Gambino.
Yeah, Childish Gambino. Like he's gone, and a lot of other people too. But like no, they definitely like the show. It's definitely those shows that like the cult following allows it to continue to live because it was canceled and people were like nobody really wanted it. It was brought back and then it was canceled again and Yahoo like picked it up. So it's definitely like one of those shows that proves that if you have a diehard fan base and you cater to that community will continue to come back.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because that's like what the last few years of like Netflix has been like.
Yeah,
right? It's watching old things that died off, getting a resurgence.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Also that year, Eastbound Down started on HBO.
I love that show.
I love that show for like the first 2 seasons. I think they're great. I think
you should go back and watch the third because it's really good.
So I think it could have ended really well in the third. They didn't need to bring it back for a 4th season.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that. But I think it was fascinating to sort of do it. What it felt like was a long movie.
Yeah, because he has an arc. His character definitely has an arc.
It was 6 episodes. They're 30 minutes long each. Will Ferrell was involved in the creation of the show and stuff like that. And it's just a really funny look at sort of that kind of washed up baseball player. Like we don't really get a lot of like sports movies we got growing up were always just like either kids who are losers and they become winners or like the bad teams that are losers, like Major League and stuff like that. You never really get guys who are just like on the tail end of popularity and fame, throwing it all away, being awful people.
Yeah, it was really good. It was great.
Great.
Archer started that year.
I love Archer. I love Archer so
Archer's
much.
Great. That one's still going strong.
Yeah.
And then 2009 was the start of one of the best sitcoms of all time, Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, that's actually another one where like the first season was not
great,
but then the rest of them
ramps
blew
up.
My mind.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's like definitely one of my top favorite like TV.
Parks and Recreation basically started as The Office but outdoors.
Right. Yeah.
And then eventually went on to become something that was completely different. The first season was just about a hole. Like it was about a pit.
Yeah,
and
Chris Pratt's character wasn't that endearing at that time.
Yeah.
You just really didn't like him. Yeah. But like Amy Schumer's character like kept you there. Like
Amy
everybody
Poehler?
else, Amy Poehler. I was confused. Sorry. But yeah, like her character kept you there. She's like this spunky little girl who's just like she doesn't she like really takes to heart what she's doing.
Attitude.
Yeah, for something that most people ignore, like the Parks and Recs department, like nobody really cares about. But she's like, no, this is really important.
Had like any of us watched the first few episodes of that show and seen Chris Pratt shining shoes awkwardly, if we had been asked, do you think this guy's going to become one of the
Guardians
biggest,
of the Galaxy,
one of the biggest action stars in the world, the stars period, star of the Lego Movie, a kind of guy that's got like he's got 7 action figures based on him now. I think none of us would have predicted that.
Yeah, that's true.
Be like, what, that dork? I mean, he's so endearing in the later seasons. I love him so much, and I love Aubrey Plaza so much. That show has everything.
Yeah. Aubrey Plaza,
Ron,
Aziz Ansari, Ron Swanson, lots of really good stuff. That's it, 2009, in an awesome nutshell. I think we pretty much ran through it all.
Yeah, we did good.
And Brian Altano came to work here at IGN.
Yes, that's right. I tried to get to IGN in time for Avatar.
Childhood dream realized.
Childhood dream.
Thanks for joining us for another History of Awesome. There's still more to come. Next up will be 2010. We'll be discussing such topics as Mass Effect 2, Red Dead Redemption, and The Walking Dead. So, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time on the History of Awesome.